We lost Frank. We lost Commissioner Clemens. Oh, there she is. All right. It is 4 p.m. I'd like to call to order the March 20th meeting of the Norwalk Traffic Authority. We have a quorum with Commissioner Collier Clemens, Commissioner Lopez, and Mayor Rilling. The first item on the agenda would be public comment. Do we have anybody wishing to address the authority?
We do not, Mayor.
Okay, and I know Mr. Craighead, you'll we'll ask questions when we get to your item. Okay, next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 27th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I move approval of minutes of February 27th.
Commissioner Collier Clemens moves. Do we have any corrections, deletions, or omissions?
There's only one correction that I see under item 2. I can't tell. I didn't print it out, so it's on my phone, but it's after Ms. Wall said that the closures will only be in effect during work hours. Commission should be Commissioner Collier Clemens.
Okay, yep, I see that. It's 8 lines down. Yep.
I can't tell from this, but that's the only one that I see.
Okay. Commissioner Lopez?
I have none, Mayor.
Chief or Deputy Chief? Or Mr. Bolella?
I have just one under staff on page 1. Michael Yosak has retired, so we should remove him from the last meeting.
Okay. Seeing no further corrections, all in favor of the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. So now we have item number 2, approval of the partial road closure of Park Street on Saturday, April 23rd for Earth Day. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Lopez. Mr. Bolella, you want to discuss that? And then we have Mr. Craighead here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give a brief introduction. So we have Brad Craighead here. This is for the Earth Day celebration on the Norwalk Green. There's a number of different community partners involved. Essentially, Brad will be able to talk to it a little bit more. It's really about everyone coming together to talk about how we can benefit the local environment in Norwalk. But it is before the commission today because of a request for a partial road closure on Park Street, and that's between Lewis Street and East Wall Street and East Avenue. TMP had a chance to review the plans, and we were recommending that Park Street north of Lewis be open for local traffic only, and that St. Paul's Place could be open for local traffic only as well. So just a portion of Park Street to be closed. The event is proposed to be held on Saturday, April 22nd. The event would start set up at 9 a.m. and then it would conclude and everyone would be out of the street by 3:15, with the actual event taking place between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. I'll let Brad speak briefly to just a little bit more about the event as well.
Just a correction, that's Saturday, April the 23rd or the 22nd?
So it should be the 22nd. I believe I think there's some materials that said the 23rd, but that would be
yeah, that's what we have on the attachment is the 23rd.
Yes, so that,
the 23rd.
That should be corrected. That's one of the event notifications.
Okay, Mr. Craighead, you're on mute.
Hi, my name is Brad Craighead, and I'm Norwalk Green Association. And yes, in terms of the actual timing of the date, I think we used last year's flyer initially to post Garrett and team on the event itself, and we've since updated it, but it's going to be held on Earth Day this year. Last year it was not on Earth Day, which is Saturday, the 22nd, I believe, of April. It's basically a carbon copy of last year's event, which was hugely successful, that came together sort of last minute. We're getting better organized this year. And that's why we're coming to you all to request the closure of Park Street. And just to put it in context, it's kind of a who's who of all community building organizations around Norwalk that are also focused on, the environment and are eco-friendly. I think, first and foremost, David Shockley and team from Keep Norwalk Beautiful is really our front and center event in terms of organizing cleanup crews from across Norwalk that then converge on the green at about 11:30, 12 o'clock. I was just up meeting with the Board of Education to talk to them about promoting the event to the schools that are within walking distance of the green, sort of 5 to 10 minutes away, and going after the elementary schools. We're not trying to create an event here that has thousands of people. We're trying to keep it sort of central Norwalk focused, which is why we have the three different neighborhood associations, which is Norwalk Green Association, which is defined as 5 minutes walking distance from the center of the green. So all the communities and sub-communities that surround the green. Most recently, some of you probably are aware that the City Hall Neighborhood Association was created, which is really from sort of Morgan Avenue on down to I-95 and then over to George Street and the Norwalk River. And then we have the Wall Street Neighborhood Association. So really the three major community based organizations are feeding into this in terms of promoting people getting to the green. And what we really don't want them to do is drive to the green. We want them to take public transportation. We want them to walk. We want them to bike ride. Last year, Jim Travers led a walk from the Wall Street Library and ended up on the green. Norwalk River Valley Trail, Nancy Rosette is also going to be doing a walk this year from City Hall, cutting across East Avenue and then walking up along the Norwalk River and then up through Mill Hill. And then we'll also have at least one bike ride. Last year, Mike Mushak and Tanner Thompson from Bike Walk Commission led an organized bike ride from Sono, from the library down there. So the idea is that over time, we build on our success of last year. The mayor was there last year and planted a tree, which was great, in front of the First Congregational Church. We're going to have Norwalk Tree Alliance there again this year. And it's sort of a who's who of organizations around Norwalk to support the event. So as Garrett highlighted, the event really starts at officially 12 to 1, but there's a lot of preparation involved, a lot of converging on the green. I believe David's teams will each get David Chalky, that is, will each get a coupon to hit the food trucks and sort of payback for their work in terms of garbage cleanup. And I'm just trying to think what else might be of interest. But, I think closing down Park Street is a very prudent thing to do. I think the feedback that I got from Garrett and team is closing just part of Park Street. So from East Wall Street up to Lewis Street. And I think that makes sense.
I have a question on that.
Yes, sir.
How is the detour going to be? Because it seems to me if they're coming up Park Street from North Avenue, they get there, they're going to have to all go down Lewis Street and go through the Elder House parking area. And when you come out of the Elder House driveway, there's no left-hand turn.
Right. Garrett, I don't know if you have a view on that.
Yeah, I can pull up the detour map. So
Because last year we didn't close the road, right?
That's correct.
Well, we didn't, but I have to say that it was cars were roaring up Park Street and cutting through people that were walking across.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So I think what Garrett's got here is, the main event in terms of the podium and the vendors are really going to be on the lower sort of triangle of the green. And, I think frankly, anything is better than nothing. So I'm happy to have any sort of closure that you all support. But yes, you're right, Mayor, that, Lewis Street is a dead end street, which only has a couple of houses on it. The main activity there is the Elder House. And there's a kindergarten that I think is only Monday through Friday. It's not really a busy street, but that is there's a back pedestrian thoroughfare called Lewis Way, which leads down to Wall Street, where people can walk up that way if they know that route. But I think most of the traffic will be coming up, both walking and driving up East Wall Street, and probably around, because if you come up Park Street from North Avenue or from Route 1, you can't take a left in front of St. Paul's, because that goes the other direction.
My only concern is Park Street is a heavily traveled street. And so there's going to be lots of traffic going down Lewis Street and out onto East Wall Street. I don't know if there's a better solution, Garrett.
So one of the things that, we had looked at was doing the entirety of Park Street local traffic only. So really making sure that there's enough signage at North Avenue so that we don't get people to come down Park Street and that they would use East Avenue.
Was the problem there St. John's Place that was referenced as a one-way? Did I get that right or am I
No,
incorrect?
no, Lewis Street.
And St. John's Place, yes. in
Well,
front of
St. John is a
City Hall.
one-way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you'd
So we-
also have to have at St. John's, you'd have to have a barricade so people don't go down there. And you'd have to have barricades on Park Street at North and Park Street at East Wall.
Yeah, so I think part of this program was to make sure that there was adequate signage, not just on Park Street, but around Park Street too. So Mayor, to your point, including it at Route 1, Park Street, on East Avenue at St. John's Place. And then also we'd have to cone off some of the lanes at East Avenue and East Wall Street to make sure that the street was closed and that no one gets in the through travel lane to it. So
There's a
there's a
deli-
coning and signage plan around the entirety of the closed area.
There's also a deli there on the corner of North and Park Street. So I don't know, how they're gonna be affected if something is closed and, and the patrons need to get in there. So, maybe you can close off, I don't know, beyond that little point there where that, I think it's called Italian Corner Deli, I recall.
That's right, yes.
So we don't want to adversely affect them if we don't have to, but how do we, in other words, mitigate that?
Well, I think that the sign for local traffic only would address that. Because when we've had road closures before, it's open for people who live there. I mean, they can go in there, but not just for regular traffic, through traffic.
So someone
Is
could
that
go,
not
in,
right,
come
Garrett?
back out and make a left.
Yeah, that's correct. So the street would only be intended for residents and business owners. That's why we felt it really pertinent to make sure that the only closed portion of the street would be south of Lewis. So those residents and business owners could access their roadway. But everything within that area would just be for local residents only. And then traffic approaching from the north would be directed to use East Avenue, and that would be simply signs. And then traffic that is coming from the south would have to travel up East Avenue as well. So we're looking at using East Avenue as the bypass for Park Street as part of this.
So there'll be presumably some patrol, is that it? Or flagman or?
Yeah, so we've been in conversations with the police department as to the correct and appropriate number of officers to accommodate this plan.
So are the business owners and the residents in the area, and especially those that will be affected by the closing there at Lewis Street, or have they been, or will they be notified in a timely manner?
Yeah, so on the corner of Lewis Street and Park Street is the First Congregational Church. They are one of the participants in the event. And then the next two properties, 2 and 3 Park Street, are apartment buildings, which have, actually one is under construction, so it's vacant. The other one has 5 apartments in it. So, and there's actually a way to cut through out to East Wall Street on that. And then on the corner is the Human Services Council, which is now the Norwalk Welcome Center, which is, the parking lot is actually accessible on East Wall Street. So the answer is really none of them are affected. And then
But
next.
they will be notified. But they will be notified.
Okay.
I would feel more comfortable. I mean, if you want to close the road down, I think closing the entire street. Because if you, like I said, if you get people coming up Park Street and they have to make a right-hand turn onto Lewis. When they get down, they're really on private property, the church and Elder House. And then when you get out the Elder House driveway, it's partially blind and you can't make a left-hand turn, or you're not supposed to. So Garrett, I think it, and I don't know what the police department feels.
Well, Mayor, if you close the entirety of Park Street, those people that you're gonna have to do something at St. John and East Avenue also, because that's one way.
Yeah,
And
they'd have to
if
close
there's
at, they'd have to close at St. John's and East Avenue. So
Right,
nobody will come down that way.
right.
Because once you get down there, you can't go back the other way.
No,
And
Would it be
and the-
possible? Sorry,
go ahead.
just a question, and this is only a question. I don't know how far-fetched this might be. Just for the event, event, can we have patrol on St. John's Place so that we allow traffic to come out that way just for that period of time, for that hour, or 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever that means?
Yeah, I don't know if that would cause too much confusion. Chief
Yeah.
and Deputy Chief, what's your opinion of this traffic pattern?
Mayor, I do see the issue that you pointed out with traffic traveling up Park Street southbound, and then they're gonna have to do U-turns to get out of there somehow. If I can only make a suggestion is, why don't we close the northbound lane and cone off the whole northbound lane and still leave traffic going south? So if we close off the lane with cones that is adjacent to the grass area, it would still allow people, and if they see cones and a police officer, they'll probably slow them down tremendously, and it'll still give them access to that area. So, we can even lengthen the area that they're proposing to close by giving them more of the adjacent lane that abuts the green. I see problems with just closing it off, because people are gonna drive up the hill. And to everybody's points, we're gonna have U-turn issues.
Fair enough.
So, Mr. Craighead and Garrett, what are your thoughts on closing down the northbound lane, which runs right next to it? It abuts the green, and allowing southbound traffic to continue.
So Brad, would you still be able to, I think your desire was to provide food trucks along that section with access to the green? Would that still accommodate your event?
Yes.
So I think that's a possibility. The trucks can be consolidated along the northern curb, and potentially, Brad, you can have them open to the green instead of opening to the street.
Yep.
That way
Yep.
we could allow southbound traffic to egress the neighborhood.
Sure. That makes sense.
And we could probably accomplish this with 2 officers and a bunch of cones. One at.
Yeah, and
East
there would still
Avenue,
be
one at-
officers, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
And I was just saying that, and there would still be officers present, at the top and the bottom of the lane closure to assist people that were
Yeah.
potentially walking to the green.
so let me be clear on this, Chief. You're suggesting closing the northbound side of Park Street from Wall Street, East Avenue, north to North Street?
No, just from East
Or
Wall
to-
Street, where
loop.
the lower end of the box is on the south end of the map. Just the northbound lane going to right before St. John's Place. Right where
Okay.
and then we could leave the southbound lane open from Park Street. So people could still travel southbound.
Yeah,
And we could just put an officer at the tip of the green there and divert everybody up East Avenue going north.
okay, that's great, that's fine.
And then people coming off of St. John's Place would have the option of going right or left.
True.
Right.
Right? I think that's a pretty good plan. Commissioners?
I got a question. Is there
Yes.
any parking at all on Park Street going south?
Is there any what? I'm sorry.
Parking.
Only when you get up to just before the church, I guess. A little bit further up. There's a Yeah, right in that area there, there's parking.
Yep.
We
Well-
could make it no parking
Yeah, I
that
think
day.
that would, yeah, I think that would be good for that day to make that no parking. And that would give the food trucks and the people, I think it would be safer than having cars parked there or trying to park there so they won't have but a short walk over to the green. So.
So I
that'd
have
be-
a question, if I may.
Sure.
Can I move my cursor on there so I can, if I may?
I don't think that'll work. You have.
I'm
you
not
don't-
sure if I can give you control of the
Okay,
cursor,
got it.
but happy to highlight
Okay,
whatever you'd like.
So take me, say if I'm a driver, a motorist on East Avenue. And I'm driving and I normally go into that park place. So I'm gonna see that barricade at that bottom there where you have your cursor.
Mhm.
Where would I be directed if I needed to go anywhere in there and I don't know anything about this event? So I'm gonna be
Yep.
directed to go through where?
So we would propose, there's a little breakout image on the bottom, but what we would propose is on East Avenue as you come northbound to actually cone off that lane, so drivers can't get in that lane to make that movement into Park Street. If you were traveling northbound, you would either go to East Wall Street, or you could go up East Avenue, and there'll be signage to direct you to St. John's Place if you
So
need to
there will be,
access that
there will be
neighborhood.
signs, right? So there will be some
Mhm.
direction. Okay, got it.
Yeah, because people on
and-
East Avenue, people on East Avenue that want to go to Park Street usually would go St. John's
Mhm.
and then make a left.
Yep.
People coming in that lane would normally go East Wall Street or go straight across to East Avenue, stay on East Avenue. All right, so I think if there's no more questions, I think we could possibly vote on this. So to recap, the northbound lane of Park Street will be closed from East Wall Street to St. John's. There'll be no parking on the westbound side of Park Street. And there'll be signages and officers placed at the locations necessary. I don't know if I've missed anything.
I think you've got it all.
Okay, if there's no further questions, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Motion carries. Good luck with the event, Mr. Craighead.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate it.
There is no further items on the agenda. Next meeting is Monday, April 17th at 4 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 4:23. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.